Welcome back, literary slummers, to another episode of Hate Read. I'm one of your Animorphs, Anna.
And I'm another of your Animorphs, Em. Every fortnight this summer on Hate Read, we are bringing you a Slummer Reading special where we are diving deep into the Animorphs series by K.A. Applegate. So this fortnight, we are covering Animorphs number 6, The Capture.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know what to expect. Who was going
either.
to be the captured? And wow.
I also felt like I didn't know what to expect actually, no, opposite of that. I felt like I knew exactly what to expect coming into this book because I was like, okay, we've done one viewpoint character each. We're going to get, because this is, like I've said before, one of those long-running series where everything is very copy-paste, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, we've got the first books out of the way. We've established all the viewpoint characters except for Axe, but, you know, that's going to be a little bit later. And now we're going to get into the rhythm, right? It's just going to be very, like, I have a problem and I turn into an animal and I fix the problem, but something goes wrong and we had to get away at the last minute. And it's like, okay, got it. This book was not that, and I am shook.
This book was a departure.
I'm fucking shook. I mean, I guess in terms of like just basic beats, it follows the same structure, right? Of there is an initial small problem that the solo Animorph goes on to demonstrate the morphing thing. They wrap that up, meet up with the other Animorphs, we're introduced to the Animorphs. They address a new problem, come up with a plan, execute the first part of that plan. It goes okay, but they find some new complication. Execute the second part of that plan, and then it gets very complicated, but then they resolve it. So, like, there are 3 morph, like, moments in each book. Mm-hmm. And we're getting, and then, like, the third one. Well, I mean, I still think that's kind of, like, all of the stuff that happens
at
the...
They, crammed all of that into, like, the first part, and then the last 40% of the book is, like...
Yeah, it's definitely blown out a bit. But I think that is still pretty... Like, it does still follow the general... I think we're because I'm really interested in just kind of, like, getting to, like, what the rules are in terms of the writing of this series. Because once we get into the ghostwriters eventually, I want to see how that plays out.
That's true, yeah.
So I do think
a while though. I think she wrote like 25 or something.
She stuck with it for a while.
Yeah, and she wrote the important ones too herself. Yeah. So
this one, aside from the fact that I think you can still see the bones of an Animorph book, this book was wild. Like,
it went places.
It went a lot of places
I didn't expect, and it was very good. All so good, so dark. Like,
yeah.
Ugh, that last scene.
Yes.
And then it's like, and then we get like an MCU end credit scene with the big bad gets teased, and you're just like, oh shit, it's Thanos, bitches.
That was, I thought it was very Lord of the Rings, actually. I mean, maybe because it is literally
kind of
like, yeah. But oh Jesus. But here's the question I have for you, because I think this is very similar to how we were feeling last fortnight when we talked about the first Marco POV, right? Where we went into it and we were like, oh, this is gonna suck. It's Marco, he's garbage. And then we came out of it loving the book and loving Marco. We went into this one saying Jake fucking sucks, but this book was phenomenal, I think, in the Animorphs canon. Do you like Jake better now? Or do you still think
I still think Jake is stupid and made bad choices, but this book was good.
Okay, that's where I landed
Jake,
too. Jake sucks still.
Jake has got a weird bug fetish going on, and I'm not here for it.
For sure. I was like, this can't be this. He just likes being a bug. He wants to be a bug.
Yeah, he was the first one, wasn't he, to experiment with the bugness? He was a flea.
Yes.
And then there was the ant, now cockroach and housefly.
Well, he pins the ant on Cassie. He's like, that was all Cassie's idea.
Yeah, but that's because that whole book he was like, Cassie, this is your plan. I'm not going to make any decisions, even though I'm the leader.
Also, if we're reading this as Jake's weird fetish, that definitely reads as like, look, yeah, okay, this one time, you know, I had my partner put electric clamps on my nipples, and yes, okay, I was into it, but it was her idea, okay? Like... Yeah. That's definitely how this reads. Cassie wanted to be ants, okay? It wasn't my idea.
This is probably a good sign for the Jake and Axe shippers as well, because Axe isn't human. He has that scorpion tail that they keep talking about. I'm just saying.
But I don't think Jake's fetish is he wants to fuck a bug. I think that he gets sexual pleasure from being a bug.
Yeah. And can you imagine, like, morphing into your beloved and then, like, doing it?
Yeah, there's definitely.
What if they, like,
I see what you're saying
places? Now. Jake morphs into Axe and Axe morphs into Jake.
I 100% think that
Obviously,
is a thing
after
that
they're 18 years old.
they will do after they are 18 years old and are in love. I found a lot of support for my favorite ships in this book.
Yes, as well as another series theory that you had.
Oh, which one?
About the Andalites, maybe not.
Oh, we can get it. We can get into a series theories.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get into it since we're raving about this book. Let's talk about what actually happens in this book.
Yes. You know, and it's so funny because I'm thinking, like, this has to be like the peak book. This is gonna be the best book in the series, and then the next one is just as good, if not better. It's incredible. Thank you, K.A. Applegate.
God, it's so sad. I'm so into this series. I texted Anna and I told her right before we were about to set up, I was like, "Hey, when are we gonna record?" And also, I'm fully crying about this Animorphs book right now. I had literal tears in my eyes because of this book.
It gets emotional.
It sure does.
So, like we said, this is a Prince Jake POV. And the beginning of this book starts out with Jake learns or realizes that the Yeerk in his brother's brain is pretty high up in the scheme of things now. And he's more involved with the planning of the Yeerk sabotage and takeover and stuff. So he wants to become a cockroach because that is the best thing to become when you go to spy on a sharing meeting and learn about their plans. Which Jake has experienced being a bug several times. And the very first time he was a flea who couldn't see or hear anything. And then he was an ant who had trouble, like, also seeing and hearing things and experiencing things because of the whole hive mind thing. So he's like, just the fact that his first instinct was like, let's just keep trying these insects that are very small and cannot hear or see.
So you said he comes up with the idea to be a cockroach for the sharing meeting, but like he comes up with the idea to be a cockroach on his own by himself first and uses that to spy on, because that's like the opening. He
doesn't have a morphing buddy or anything.
Yes, so he just does it by himself in his house to spy on Tom.
Which is very stupid because he gets caught in a roach trap.
Right. But also just, like, again, he has a bug fetish, right? Like, because he says, he uses the cockroach thing to go check their phone and see who Tom has been calling. So this is not this is again the 90s. This is not a personal cell phone that he has to steal from Tom, and like
he could just quietly pick up the other line.
Literally just pick up the phone in his family's house and be like, "Oh, I'm calling Cassie," and then like check what Tom has done. It's very unnecessary that he does this whole bug thing in the first place.
Why doesn't he morph into his dog who can hear things really well?
Right. Like, he just wants to be a bug.
Ugh. Come on, Jake.
And Cassie gets super pissed about the fact that he does this by himself, and it was uncomfortable for me as a reader to read that scene. I didn't like it. Because she, like, grabs his face and is like...
lovers tip.
Yeah, like, she, like, grabs his face and is like, look at me, I am the captain now, no more cockroaches.
I am Prince Jake now. But then she's like, that is a good idea, though, so we'll all turn into cockroaches and go infiltrate this meeting on the beach together.
Yeah. Which is also very stupid because...
Yes.
Why? This is... And I would argue this points to, like, the fact that Jake is a bad leader because it is, Jake's plan in the first place, although Cassie does, like, be like, yeah, it's good. But B, I would say their plans get significantly better once, spoiler alert, Jake gets incapacitated. Like, their planning when Jake is no longer involved gets, like, stepped up so much that I have to assume that, like, and I think maybe what it is that Jake is just too quick to go with the first idea. I think that, like, and my evidence for this is that when they start planning to go be roaches, they do a practice run. And this is like kind of the first time we've seen this. And Marco is like, wow, this is weird. We don't usually do a practice run. We usually just come up with the plan, pick up the animal, and then do it. And I'm like, you guys, the fuck? This is terrible.
This is your 6th time doing this.
This is your 6th time. If I was the leader, this is what I would be saying. I would be saying, okay, we are 13 years old. And I get they have like school and stuff and they have to keep up the facade of normal life and whatever. But I'd be like, we are 13. Mm-hmm. We probably don't have that much homework. We definitely were just dicking around watching TV for 2 hours a day, which I have evidence for in this book because Rachel mentioned specifically the 2 hours worth of shows.
And watch TV and movies.
The 2 hours worth of shows that she has to record because they're off animorphing. So I'm like, so they definitely were watching at least 2 hours of shows or playing video games or whatever a day. So I'd be like, guys, I'm sorry, we aren't doing that anymore. We are going to practice for 2 hours a day.
We're doing daily morph practice.
Right. 2 hours a day. That's the end of the discussion. Because they're also like like, oh, wow, we're actually going to do a practice run? That's crazy. Like, no, it's not. That should be the standard.
Y'all need to have your little Animorphs bullet journal where you write down what days you're going to become which animals, and then you'll have a beautiful spread where you draw your favorite morph and you as that morph and what that morph means to you.
Someone's going to be like on acquisition duty every day who's going to like go round up some animals or like scout some animals, like places where they can go touch animals. Someone's going to be... Yeah, well, I think it would be best if they all took turns because Cassie's going to have to practice too, although she's the best morph. And then everyone else is going to pick...
She's a very good horse.
Everyone else is going to pick a morph, and it's going to be different morphs. They're not all going to do fucking wolves every day because that's stupid. They're all going to pick a different morph, practice turning into that morph so they can turn quickly, practice being in control of that animal's mind so that they're not like dicking around for half an hour trying not to be an ant getting stepped on, and then they're going to practice running around as that morph so that they know how to do it. Like, this is basic shit. Like, why are you guys not doing this every fucking day? I don't understand.
Well, the thing that really
I do understand because Jake's a bad leader.
They're morphing. Jake's a bad leader. The thing I don't understand is they mention this almost every book, like, oh, we must be out of the thought speech range. Like, fucking go figure out what the speech range is.
Yeah. Yes. You have, and that's not
Axe is there. He's always thought speeching.
So is
you
Tobias.
Can just have Axe move away from you.
And he can fly. You could do this while you're in class. Like, you could be sitting in class and be like, Tobias, sit outside the window. Got it. Okay, go a little further. Got it. Okay. Like, what are you doing, Jake? Why are you so bad at being the leader?
Well, I guess, they do have to talk back, right? They can't. So I guess the classroom might not be the most viable situation.
No, because Tobias has magic hawk eyes that can see far distances, so you just sit there and have a signal. Just
nod his head.
Yeah, nod your head, tap your pencil 5 times. Like, that's not going to be noticed by anyone. It's just going to look like you're fidgeting. This is pre-fidget spinners. Like...
Jake is not organized, and it really bothers me.
And I think he literally he comes up with a plan, and he's like, okay, let's do that plan. And everyone's so, like, ingrained with, like, okay, Jake's the leader. He's the guy who does the plans, that as soon as Jake's like, let's do this plan, everyone's like, okay, I guess. And no one... I think once Jake is taken out of the equation, they probably talk more about their options, you know?
Yes, which is evident at the end of this book.
Yes,
where they come up with a badass plan.
Where they come up with the greatest plan ever, and it's so perfectly executed.
It's so good. So they go to infiltrate the meeting, and they learn that the Yeerks have taken over a bunch of doctors and hospital staff at a local hospital, and they're just fucking turning patients into controllers. We also learn that Visser 3 has a human form, which is fun. Yes, I forgot about that.
It doesn't super add much to the plot, but I feel like it's fun, and we should mention it.
Yeah, Visser 3's realized there's 7 billion people on the planet, and he could become literally any of them.
Yeah, but I also feel like this is the moment where in the Animorphs show, which I haven't seen, but if the Animorphs show follows the book, or if they did like a new Animorphs show and did like a pretty straight adaptation, this is the moment where suddenly there would be a whole bunch of Visser 3 fan fiction popping up. Because they would definitely get a hot guy to play Visser 3's human form, right?
Absolutely. And there would definitely be a ton of fangirls that are like, oh, he's just understood,
Exactly, dude. Yes.
Visser 3 is bae.
I will say I have this problem every time there's a year heavy book, which I guess is all of them, but I feel like there's some that go more, you get more of the Yeerks, like, thought processes. Mm-hmm. And I'm always like, I don't agree with the Yeerks, but I do get where they're coming from. And, like, I don't know. I just find that really interesting that, like, even though they are, like, depicted as definitely evil and very bad, there is, like, some nuance there, especially with this one. Like, I felt like the shit with the Yeerk in this one. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like,
very surprising.
Yeah.
So they're turning patients into controllers, and the governor of the state, that may or may not be California, is going to be a patient at this specific hospital, and they're planning on taking over his body, which is super bad because this governor is going to be running for president. So the kids are all freaked out because there could be a controller in the White House. And then, of course, they're found out, so they all have to scatter and scuttle away as cockroaches, but they all get away. It's fine. Tobias picks up Jake, and they fly around for a little bit.
I don't think I pointed this out earlier on my tangent about why Jake's plans are bad. Why this plan specifically was bad is why the fuck did they all need to go? That was
exactly
very dumb and stupid. Also, why did they...
Yes,
because they also keep doing this thing where they're like, we're going to go as cockroaches, and we're all going to go as cockroaches. And I'm like, no, guys.
Have the fucking gorilla sitting in the wings waiting to pound some people.
Right. Or, like, I don't know, just be different bugs and don't hang out together. Like, what are you doing?
Yes. Look, Prince Jake, I know you're 13 years old, but you're dumb as fuck. Okay? Just stop. Just hand over your leadership to Rachel, the Amazonian beauty that is your cousin.
No, I think Rachel would be too quick to pull the trigger too. I think you need Tobias. I think you need either Tobias or Axe, one of the two no, not Axe, because he doesn't know what the fuck's going on ever. Tobias. I think Tobias is removed from everything. He can be the strategist.
Tobias.
Yes.
See, I'd totally be in favor of Rachel being in charge, because she'd just go in there, she'd be like, let's just kill people. And I'd be like, all right.
Bloodthirsty. I do also want to say, though, that although Jake's plan is very stupid, this is where it is revealed that the Yeerks are just the fucking dumbest as well, because, like, literally, at one point, Visser 3 is up there talking, and someone tries to stomp one of the bugs, and is like, oh, sorry for interrupting, there's a bunch of cockroaches over here, and Visser 3 is like, are you fucking kidding me? Our enemies are beings that turn into animals. What the fuck, you guys? Why? What is wrong with you? Which, like, same. Because if I was a fucking Yeerk and I was planning a secret meeting, I would be like, okay, we are doing this in, like, a room with one access point. We are putting fucking rat
no cracks
traps and roach motels all along the exterior. We're gonna fucking bug spray it, like, in advance. We're gonna have the fucking Orkin Man waiting, like, outside the door to, like, fuck these guys up, because I'm not doing this.
You know what? I'll do you one better. These are all high-level Yeerks. Just have the meeting fucking in space, dude.
That's also a good point.
Just get on your spaceship and go up to there. And then no one will know what your plans are.
One of the Yeerks is like, listen, man, like, I don't know, I got, like, a PTA meeting, like, right before this, and Sharon's got the minivan, and it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and I need to watch my 2 hours of TGIF tonight.
Right, like, Friends is on. You know how we all love Friends, because it's based on that show from our home planet.
No, we named the dolphins. You know. Oh. So then they have to execute their save the hospital plan, which Jake is like, you know what? You know what'll look really inconspicuous in a hospital, a sterile, clean environment? A bunch of bugs. Again. Okay, Jake.
Why have they not figured out
just
yet?
Just morph into your parents. Morph into your parents or something. Or a doctor or someone.
I will give Jake credit, because the plan could have been worse. It could have been like, let's morph into babies or something. But like,
and then Marco, you can be a gorilla
people
that pushes us into the maternity ward.
Man, that would be so great if they just started doing like 1950 style sitcom capers at this point. Man. But yeah, yes. No, it's very stupid. But also, like, I guess in this universe, And I think you could do a bug that people wouldn't notice, like a fruit fly or something.
Yeah,
like, I don't think you'd notice that in a hospital. But, like, a fucking housefly? Like, yeah, you're gonna notice that. And then there's, like...
get killed.
There's, like, 6 houseflies? Like, that's suspicious.
Oh, but it's okay because they split up into groups of 2 houseflies each. So Jake and Axe fly into... They smell like poopy diapers, and so they're like, we must be in the maternity ward, and they go into a room and demorph, and there's a jacuzzi in the room, and it's full of yerks, because it's not really a jacuzzi, it's a Kendrona pool or whatever.
Like a mini one. Like a portable.
Yeah. And Jake goes hard. He just is like, I'm gonna turn this jacuzzi up so fucking much that all the yerks get burnt to a crisp.
Not even burnt to a crisp, boiled alive. Like, that's pretty fucked up. That's pretty I mean, I guess I don't...
That is
I don't know
real bad.
how I feel like they should have handled this, because I feel like it would be just as bad to remove the yerks individually and, like, have to smush them. That would be, I think, almost more fucked up. So, like, I guess this is kind of their
not really a clean way to kill these slugs.
Right.
He could have just put a bunch of salt in the water.
I don't know if they work like that, but maybe.
Oh, okay.
I also think that I feel like having, like, not proud of this, but I definitely did one time as a kid do the salt on a slug thing. And I made myself cry because it was so upsetting.
Aww. They, like, sizzle. It's not great.
Yeah, they sizzle, and it's just really upsetting. I'm sure it hurts, and you shouldn't do that to slugs. Don't do that, guys. Don't be like me. It's also little... Slugs. Let slugs be slugs. They're not hurting you. Leave them alone. But yeah, I think actually
they look icky, but
that might be a worse death than getting boiled alive. I don't know, because I feel like getting boiled alive, it would be, like, gradual, right? But, like, not in a necessarily unpleasant way. You'd be like, oh, it's kind of getting warmer in here. Oh, a little bit too warm. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, and then you die. Whereas, like, salt, I think, would be like, oh shit from the beginning. You know?
Very true.
You'd be like, I'm experiencing chemical burns over 100% of my body. That sounds worse to me.
Which is faster, I guess. I don't know.
I guess that's
Whichever
a
would be
good
faster,
point.
I guess, is the most merciful.
Yeah. Which probably the fastest thing for them would be to smush them. But I think that would be more fucked up as a person having to do that.
Yes, very true.
Like, I have to remove these slugs individually.
That would have a lasting effect on the
You'd get to a point with these, like, hundreds of slugs where you're like, okay, can we, like, do these as multiples? Like, Rachel, get over here. Be an elephant. Come here. We're gonna, like, put them all on a tray, and you just smash, like, 5 of them at a time.
Hospital room. What if they just, like, drained the water? No, because they probably still would have lived, huh? I thought they needed to be in, like, fluid of some kind, but I guess
I don't think so. I think it's just that's how they
Brains don't have a lot of water in them, huh?
Yeah, well, they do. They're pretty watery, actually, but, like, they can go from other stuff to the brains without a problem. So they can be out of a fluid environment for some time at least. Because they gotta crawl fish? To get to the... No, not like fish.
Fish can be out of water for very short periods of time.
I'm saying they probably can be out of water for longer than that. Like, I think they might be, like, amphibious.
Oh, okay. Like frogs.
Not like fish.
So while Jake is committing his mass genocide of yerks, some controllers stumble upon them, and there's a fight. And Jake gets knocked into the yerk jacuzzi, like, face down in the water. And he doesn't drown, but something even worse happens. There's a yerk in his brain.
Oh no!
He gets yerked up!
This book was
which
wild.
Was so interesting. Like, yes. And, like, reading about the process of it, like, K.A. Applegate spares no details. And so she, like, goes really into depth about how Jake is having this struggle with another being in his mind, and then, like, slowly evolving into, like, this helplessness as he can't do anything with his body, and words are coming out of his mouth that aren't his, and his body is moving, and he's not the one making it move, and it's just like, gave me chills. It was not, yucky.
It was pretty gross, but it also led to what I think is so far the greatest moment in my Axe and Prince Jake shipping theory.
Okay, go on.
Well,
let us hear it.
So while they're trying to figure out, so like they get Jake out of there and they're like, oh, he's injured, and he's like in kind of like almost like a coma state where he's not reacting to anything while this process is happening at first. And then he switches, like, once he's fully in control of the Yeerk, like, the Yeerk starts being him. But so all of the friends are talking to him, and he's like, oh, surely, like, Cassie or Marco will figure it out because they know me so well, and they'll, like, know that, like, I'm not behaving correctly, and then it becomes clear that the Yeerk is behaving exactly like him, and he's like, fuck, no one's gonna be able to figure it out, like, that I'm a Yeerk. And then he looks at Axe, and he's like, the Yeerk has, like, a moment of disgust, and he can't, like, control his facial expressions. He just, like, reacts, like, ugh, real quick, and then, like, composes himself and talks to Axe, and Axe is immediately like, this is not Jake, this is a fucking Yeerk. Like, which, on the one hand...
You are not my prince.
Yes, exactly. On the one hand, it's very like, oh, it's because the Yeerks and the Andalites are mortal enemies, but on the other, it's also because Axe is paying such close attention to Jake's facial expressions, and he's never seen Jake look at him with disgust before. He knows that Prince Jake accepts him unconditionally.
Yes, he knows every emotion that usually splays itself across Jake's face. And disgust is just not something Jake is capable of.
Oh man, guys.
The others seem a little bit skeptical until the Yeerk in Jake's brain slips up and he's like, Axe, you are a trash alien from a garbage species. And then everyone's like, oh yeah, he's a controller.
But then the great thing about this is, like, usually when it's this situation of, like, someone is under control of a different being and the others need to figure it out. That's, like, the tension, right? Usually that gets pulled out a lot longer. But in this one, it's like, no, that gets figured out pretty much immediately. They're like, oh, this dude's a fucking controller. Nice. Fuck this. But then what gets pulled out is, like, the Yeerk trying to, like, reconvince them that he's not. Which I think is interesting and also more entertaining, because it's, as the audience when you're in that situation, can be frustrating because you're like, come on guys, figure it out. And these guys did figure it out pretty much immediately.
Everyone but Jake would have figured it
out.
Right,
exactly. But then, like, everyone, like, you get to see, like, the Yeerk trying to, like, figure out ways to get back in their good graces, being like, oh, well, yeah, of course, like, I called him that, but it's because I'm frustrated and I've had a long day, and, like, come on, Cassie, like, you don't want to do this, like, this is, you know, like, it was a lot more, like, seeing how this Yeerk is going to try to emotionally manipulate them now that they know, or they think they know, because there is a little bit of doubt in their mind. They're like, yeah, pretty much 98% sure, but, like, at the same time, they're like, ooh, do we really want to tie up Jake, because that's what they decide on. They're like, okay, the way to fix this is we hold him captive for 3 days, and then the Yeerk will have to either, like, crawl to one of these fucking pools and we can stomp it, or it'll just die. And everyone at first is kind of like, oh, that's pretty tricky, like, I don't know if we want to do that to Jake, but then everyone's kind of like, well, of course we do. We're not going to be stupid about this. Like, the downside if it is Jake will be slightly mad at us. And the downside if it's not Jake and we don't do it is that we will all die. So they are so, like, on point. Usually in this sort of thing, like, someone would be fucking stupid and emotional about it. And no one does that. I'm like, this is amazing. This is how every sci-fi team should act. Like, they are so on point.
100% agree. I thought this was also, like, really good characterization for the Yeerk in his brain, which is, we find out a little bit later, but I guess I can spoil it now. The Yeerk in Jake's mind is called Temresh 114, and he is the same Yeerk that was in his brother's brain, and he was kind of, like, set aside to become the governor's new controller. And I don't know, it was just really cool to see how, like, someone who is considered a competent and highly skilled Yeerk would act in a situation like this, where he's, like, deep in the enemy, behind him in enemy lines, so to speak. It was just really well done.
Yeah. And I feel like also there was a lot of this like really good characterization of the Yeerks as a species. And I mentioned this before, and I mentioned this in like other episodes that are kind of Yeerk centric. Like they are definitely evil, and they definitely like have a very shit view of other species. Like they're like, everything that's not us sucks, pretty much. But
Yes,
you can still like
arrogant.
their viewpoints aren't, they're not like comically villainous. They're like, no, I get why they think this way. Like they, because and I mean, again, this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but there's a part where the Yeerk talks about like kind of their origins as a species, and like he's like, okay, yeah, we were on this planet, and this planet didn't have like this great biodiversity like you guys do, and there weren't any species that were like as smart as us, and then we kind of got in their brains and we like used this stuff to our advantage, like the shit that like they're not as smart as us, like categorically, so we used them to our advantage. But I mean, that didn't really hurt them. I mean, like, you know, we're gonna, like, we're better than them, and we should be the ones in charge. And then they kind of like expand this thought into like, because we can control them, that automatically makes us better than them and smarter than them, and therefore we're more capable of making the correct decisions. So we should be in charge. So it's like this like self-justifying thing, but it does follow like a logical, like I see where they as a species came up with this. They're not just out destroying worlds because it's like fun, or it's like, no, like it makes sense. It's really shitty and they're doing very bad things, but they're not like, they're not without motive. They're not without like they're really well done villains. Like I really like the Yeerks.
Yeah, they went from like a symbiotic relationship with their hosts to just like completely dominating them over the course of however many generations.
Yeah, like it was like an evolutionary thing. Like they started as like, well, we just get in there and do our thing because that's like, we're so weak and, you know, we need them. And then it became more like, oh, well, they need us. Like we're better than them. We can do this better.
Yeah. And I also like how they have a lot of opinions on like the diversity of the planet, and they come back around again to like, oh yeah, we'll just kill off most of the things on the planet because it's just too confusing. There's too many of you. It's not clean. It's not neat and tidy. And we don't like that. So yeah, they're just like neat freaks.
Right. Really good Yeerk work in this one.
Yes. Snaps to K.A. Applegate. So Axe takes on the appearance of Jake, so no one notices he's missing for 3 days. Which I have a lot of questions about this because he can only do it in 2-hour chunks, right? Unless you're writing the fanfic where he gets stuck as Jake and then like, you know. But how does he do school? Does he just go to the bathroom between classes? And he's like, okay.
I think probably if you think back to like middle school, you were doing bells at that point probably, right? So like you'd have different class periods, you'd have like the time in the locker room, so you just go in, or locker room, at the lockers, so you just like duck into the bathroom and, you know, double morph real quick so that you restart the clock.
I question A, whether an Andalite would fit into a bathroom stall, or B, whether or not someone would notice that there was suddenly like a clip-clopping hoof sound. And
yeah, that is a good point.
Just a lot of questions out. I want the point of view of Axe during this whole Jake imposter situation, because I think it would be hysterical.
It would be good. It would, because you'd get a lot of like the fish out of water, him trying to figure out how to be human stuff. And then also just like the problems of the logistics of having to demorph every 2 hours.
to duck out every 2 hours. Yeah. So the Yeerk has access to Jake's morphing abilities, which it uses to try to escape a few times. The first time is the first night. Rachel is watching Jake and she falls asleep, and Yeerk Jake turns into a tiger and then a wolf and is like running around in the woods, but Rachel is just pretending to be asleep. And so they pull this awesome plan where like they turn into various animals and kind of lead the Yeerk Jake around the woods into various traps and stuff, and basically like show him, you can't escape from us because we're prepared for this.
Well, and what's great,
again, surprising.
What's great about this is you really see how Jake has been holding the group back, because
truly ditch Jake, take his morphing abilities away from him, All he wants to do is become bugs. Let him be bug boy.
The whole build up to this this moment, right, is like the Yeerk is in Jake's head and they are sharing thoughts to some extent, but the Yeerk can withhold stuff from Jake as needed. And the Yeerk is like being really smug about something and Jake can't figure out what, because he's like, oh, you know, they're gonna keep me tied up for 3 days. Like, I don't know what he thinks is gonna happen. Like, why is he being so smug? And then Rachel falls asleep, or seems to fall asleep, and the Yeerk is like, haha, but you forgot, Jake, we can morph. And Jake is like, shit, I did forget we can morph. And I'm like, how the fuck did you forget you can morph? So, like,
Jake,
the Yeerk...
Jake, that's why you're a danger in fighting these Yeerks. That's why...
That's the whole point.
That's how this happened.
Jake. So, like...
God
Yeerk,
Jake.
like, sneaks out into the woods, and Jake's like, oh no, whatever will we do? And then, like, the other Animorphs show up and are like, no, like, we fucking knew you can morph because we're not idiots, so we knew this would happen, so we had Rachel, like, pretend to be asleep so you'd go ahead and try it, and we could, like, kind of put you in your place. So, like, the whole, It's just so funny, because it's, like, literally everybody but Jake is playing with a full hand, and he's over here, like... Well, Truly? I've got, like, a queen and a 3. Does that win?
Jake is clearly, like, a puppet king, puppet prince.
Yes.
The others are pulling his strings, but, you know, he's just so foolhardy sometimes that they can't help but become cockroaches. It's just... you know. So this whole time that he's being held captive, the Yeerk and Jake are also, like... having conversations inside Jake's mind, and the Yeerk tries to do some psychological warfare where he shows Jake some of Tom's memories of feeling helpless and sad and crying all the time because he has no control over his body and how miserable he is, and it's very sad. And then as the days pass, Jake learns more and more about Temrash and the Yeerks and kind of everything we've talked about already, but he makes one last attempt to flee as an ant. But then a bunch of, like, enemy ants come and basically rip him apart to pieces, and so that's cool that Jake got to experience that again. I'm so glad for him.
He deserves it.
He deserved it. He deserved to be pulled apart by ants again. So Tamrash is like, okay, I guess I'll just die. And he goes through this, like, it's like a couple hour long, I think you could say, flashback of his memories of Temrash's history, of the history of the Yeerks in general, and how they work themselves up from these basic parasites to becoming what they are today. And it is implied that, or I guess it's just straight up stated, that for every host that Temrash has, like, part of them is imprinted on him, and he goes on to, like, carry on some traits of each host. And now because Temrash was inside of Jake, Jake will supposedly also carry these traits, and so maybe that will make him a better prince, because now he's been, like, a Hork-Bajir leader in the military.
Yeah, maybe he'll get his shit together. Jesus Christ.
Maybe his next POV will be all about him coming to terms with being an actual leader.
But it also points to, like, a way that the Yeerks could be, like, that's kind of beautiful, right? Like, this whole idea of the Yeerks, like, they could be doing such good in the universe, right? They could be, like, asking people for their permission to, like, chill with them for a bit, and then you would get all the memories of all these other people, and, like, you could move on to the next thing, and it would be, like, it would be so great. Like, man, I'm such a Yeerk fan. If only the Yeerks didn't suck so hard.
If only the Yeerks were good instead of bad. Yeah. With great power comes great responsibility, and obviously the Yeerks have no responsibility whatsoever.
Exactly. The Yeerks are just irresponsible with their power. They needed to, like... Yes. If there was, like, an omnipotent god that was in control of this universe, which I guess Applegate kind of, but, you know, in a meta way. I feel like that was supposed to be their trial run of, like, here, we got you a puppy so you can learn about responsibility, right? It's like, here, we got you a, whatever the base animals are on their planet, Gebs or something. Like, we got you some of these so you can practice not being a dickhead to these guys. And then they kind of, like, fucked that up real bad.
It did not go as planned.
No.
They also, Temrash kind of hints that the Andalite side of the story might not be the full story. He's like, oh, they're not as good as you think they are. Why do you think we're fighting like this? So, you know, points to you, I guess, Em.
Yeah. I mean, we still don't know for sure what the deal is, but...
And you know, like, fucking stupid Prince Jake is going to sit on all this info he learned and never reveal it to the group until it's too late.
Right.
And we also get this, like, tease of a big bad at the end, very, very end of the Yeerk's life. And Jake says, I'm just going to read it from the text, it's really short. And then I saw it. A creature or a machine, some combination of both. It had no arms. It sat still as if unable to move on a throne that was miles high. Its head was a single eye, so okay, Sauron. The eye turned slowly, left, right. I trembled. I prayed it would not look my way. And then it saw me. The eye, the blood-red eye, looked straight at me. It saw me, no, I cried in silent terror and looked away. But then, like, Jake comes back to his, like, regular senses, and he just, like, it didn't affect him. Like, it just, like, it ended at that, and it wasn't brought up again, where, like, Jake didn't reflect on it at the end of the book. He was more, like, thinking about his brother, which, you know, I guess that's his main characterization, is I worry about my brother, but...
Yeah. So
this is very important.
Is this supposed to be, like, the big bad, or is it, like... I don't know. Like, I don't know what this is, right?
I don't want to give you spoilers.
Oh, okay. Don't. Enough said on that.
So I won't give you spoilers. But yes, I don't think this will be the last we see of this other person. And then Temrash falls out of Jake's head and is just kind of laying on the ground when Jake wakes up from this trance of memories. And Jake goes back to his normal life, no one the wiser. And he makes a phone call to his brother Tom, and he disguises his voice, and he's like, don't give up, Tom.
Which I will say is at least better than what they did for Melissa back with the Chapmans, where, like, she was all bummed because her parents didn't love her, and they sent her a note and was like, your dad really does love you. And, like, she would have no context for that and be like, I don't fucking know what the fuck. But at least this, like, Tom is in there and can hear that, you know? So there is kind of some hope spot there.
Yes. Yeah, and as long as he, you know, he, like, kind of partially morphed into a wolf in order to make his voice sound different. So, you know, they can't find out who it is talking to Tom.
I think Jake... Like, I think we do see that Jake has been affected by this, because he says, like, he's having this dream throughout that's him chasing his brother, and he's morphed into a tiger, and he ends up killing his brother, because that's kind of what he fears will happen. And there's this moment at the end where after all this has happened, and it says he has the dream again, and the exact quote is, I was the tiger, my brother was the prey, but in the end, I was my brother, and he was me. And that was, like... I don't know. There's something, and I feel like kind of a dickhead talking about it, but there's something, like, really deep about these books and, like, the ideas that they're espousing about, like, connectivity, right? Like, that there's, like, you know, like, there's, like, it's kind of the thing, like, what the Yeerks could be, right? Where he's getting this, like, ability to understand his brother better. I don't know. I really like
he does have part of Tom inside of him now because of the whole Yeerk thing. Yeah. So yeah, they are kind of one and the same, interchangeable.
Yeah. And like, because we've been talking about like the morality of Animorphs, and it's like that's kind of what separates, I guess, the Yeerks from the Andalites and the humans. That like the Yeerks kind of, I guess, don't really have that ability to empathize, right? Like they're like, oh yeah, we became this person and we carry them with them, and they're stupid and dumb and we don't like them. But like, I don't know, like that Jake goes through this and is like, no, I understand better now that like, I mean, like literally he is his brother and his brother is him in the sense of like this shared memory bullshit. But like that he is interchangeable with like there, because that was something that kind of came up a couple times in this book, was this like ideas of like individuality versus the collective. And I think like Jake was kind of like, no, I don't want to be a part of the collective. Like I hated the ant thing. I want to be an individual. And then like Tom's like, you need to be part of the sharing, because like it's great to be a part of something bigger. And Jake's like, but I don't want that. I just want to be me. And then at the end of this book, he comes to this like realization, like what brings him comfort in this dream is like, I am him, he is me. We are part of this collective. We are part of like this bigger thing. And it's not this like fucked up version that the Yeerks are doing.
Human.
It's very kumbaya, very, you know, colors of the wind. Like, I don't know.
It's a very Cassie thing to think.
Yes.
He's being influenced by his girlfriend. Ugh, come on, Jake.
Ugh, get it together, Jake.
Be your own person again.
Stand up. Go make out with Axe.
Yes, they just keep getting, the stakes just keep getting raised every book, you know? It's just so good.
It really is. I want to get right into morbid moment because I feel like it vibes with what I was just kind of talking about.
Yes.
A little bit. Did you have a morbid moment for this week? What was yours?
My morbid moment was just the idea that the Yeerks controlled the hospital and they were just putting Yeerk slugs into people's brains, you know? They're like, well, they're out, they're all anesthesiaed up, so let's just go ahead and stick something in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty, like...
Can you imagine, like...
that's kind of some nightmare, like, I feel like that plays on a lot of anxieties that people already have about hospitals and doctors, and, like, the whole idea of, like, the evil, and I mean, like, some of this comes from history and doctors not having, and I'm not, no shade to doctors, but there is, like, a pretty long history of doctors not really having, like, until pretty recently, you didn't have to fully inform patients of, like, what you were doing, right? It was just, like, doctors know best, and doctors are gonna do what they're gonna do.
Doctor knows best. And
they can maybe tell you stuff, and maybe they won't. And, like, that's definitely the vibe has changed in the last, like, I'd say few decades even, but... I think that kind of, like, idea of being so powerless plays very well into, like, the fear of the Yeerks, right? Like, the lack of control. And, like, I think some anxieties that people still hold about hospitals and doctors go along very well with that.
Can you imagine just, like, going into an operating room and they're being like, yeah, we're just gonna, like, do this quick, easy surgery, and then you wake up afterwards and you have no control over your body anymore? That's fucked up.
I mean, I can't imagine that, and I don't like imagining that. It's not pleasant.
Stop imagining it.
Yeah.
What was your morbid moment?
Mine was towards the end of this book, once the Yeerk is in Jake's head, and you get the explanation, or the, like, the peek into Tom's psyche, because it is, I don't know if this was intentional, but to me, this book very much put out the idea that Yeerk control is analogous to depression. Like, because there is, like, the language that is used about what Tom is going through, it is pretty much a one-to-one to, like, someone with depression. Like, and
I could see that.
Like, this is the part that I cried at, the whole part where... Tom is stuck in this body that isn't doing the things he wants. And it says, like, the host fights, or at least tries, but hour after hour and day after day, they see they cannot rule their own bodies. The host sees that no one even knows what has happened to him. No one knows he is lost in his own head, and over time, hope dies. And that's like, Jesus, this is, I don't know if she did this intentionally, and I don't know if this is something that'll continue in other books, but it was very, like, I feel like this is a metaphor for that. You know?
Yeah.
God, it was a lot.
Absolutely. I bet it, I don't know, man. I can't, I feel like I don't want to give K.A. Applegate too much credit, but also, like, girl's got some tricks up her sleeve. I bet she did it purposely.
I would say I wouldn't be surprised if it was an unintentional move, but I also wouldn't be, like, entirely surprised if it wasn't, just because I think that a lot of, like, sci-fi, because it's sci-fi, you can do a lot of, like, oh, this is analogous to this, or, you know, whatever, which may or may not be intentional, and that kind of doesn't matter in the end. It really just matters what the audience takes from it. And for me, I was like, Jesus Christ, like, this is 100%, like, Yeerk controllers 100% is functioning for me as a metaphor for depression in this book. And it was a lot.
Well, and, like, the way that they talked about how the Yeerks would, like, they would go inside people's brains, and, like, basically their bodies would almost become liquid, I want to say, and they would go through, like, every part of the brain and wrap around the nerve endings and stuff. Like, I feel like it's very much, like, no, I mean, I could definitely see that. The way that the Yeerks were described as functioning is just, like, brain chemicals.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just, it was a very intense, last like 20% of this book for me. I was like, Jesus Christ. And
I'm sure.
I didn't like full on sob, but I really was tearing up at a couple of points that were like talking about Tom. It was like a lot.
Poor Tom. I hope we get some good news for Tom here soon, because boy has been just through the ringer. Who knows how long he's been a controller.
I think we get some, because it talks about when he was taken, and we find out that he didn't, because it's kind of been implied, oh, maybe Tom agreed to this because he wanted to be part of something, and, you know, whatever. And we do see that first scene where he is taken, and it's because he starts going to the meetings because he has a crush on this girl, and he stumbles into like a meeting with Visser 3, and so they take him because he's seen too much and whatever.
Yeah, but was that like a year ago? Was it months? Was it
probably like a few months from just what we know from the first book, with like, I think they mention how long he's been going to the meetings, and it hasn't been like that long. It's recent enough that Jake remarks on it. But real quick though, can we sidebar into the fact that Jake's parents are fucking idiots? Because like, if your kid, you're 100%. Like however old Tom is, 16 or something, came home and was like, I have quit the basketball team, I don't want to do it anymore, I just want to be part of this new group, that like this super fun new group that
Honey,
everyone's
you're in a cult.
Right, you'd be like, oh wait, you want to quit the basketball team and you've been doing basketball for like 5 years now and you are really into it, like what's going on? And then he's like, no, I just really love this new group. And they're like, cool. What's the name of this group? And he's like, The Sharing. You'd be like, yeah, you're in a cult. We're not doing that.
You are grounded. Give me your car keys.
Right.
Saving your life, Tom.
Right. Oh, man.
Oh.
Poor Tom.
All right, so let's get into series theories then, because we did learn a little bit more about the Andalites versus the Yeerks. We learned a lot about Yeerks. We learned a lot about Prince Jake and his bugs.
I would say my biggest series theory right now is that I am hoping that somehow, if this series gets an ending, which we've discussed before, whether or not, like, I feel like it will wrap up to some extent, but how open-ended it will be. If the conflict with the Yeerks comes to a head, I really kind of hope that it like, maybe that thing that's that big bad character, symbol, whatever it is, maybe that's kind of like pushing them to be more shitty about stuff, because I would, between the allusion to the fact that the Andalites may have had something to do with them being as shitty as they are, and kind of this like stuff that's been baked in about the Yeerks having these abilities to basically be the most empathetic things that have ever existed, and they're just choosing not to do that. And also with the whole, there's a part where the Yeerk is dying and is talking to Jake, and he's like, yeah, I don't have much longer. And Jake's like, or he says something shitty, and Jake's like, tick tock, 2 hours left. And the Yeerk is like, fuck you, man, I'm dying. Like, why are you laughing at me? And Jake's like, well, what did you expect me to do? Pity you? And the Yeerk's like, I don't know, not pity, but like, maybe don't be a fucking dick about it. But Jake does say something along the lines of like, he doesn't like any creature to die, not even the Yeerks. So, I don't know. I guess my big series theory is I hope that this wraps up in a positive way, where it's not just like, and then we fucking blew up the Yeerks. Like, I hope, I don't know, like, I know that's kind of lame to be like, I hope that they talk it out, but I hope they talk it out.
Yeah.
Right?
We don't want, like, an eradication of an entire species or race of aliens. Like I don't agree with the Yeerks' methods or, like, what they're doing, but, like, I think there's something. They're bad methods, but.
They're bad methods, and they're definitely dicks. Like, they're mean and bad and rude to other species. And maybe rude is a little bit too not severe enough of a phrase, since what they do is enslave other species.
Extremely rude. They don't even ask.
Extremely rude. But I don't know. I don't want to see them wiped off the map, because I feel like that's what's being laid down here, is kind of this message about, like, violence isn't good and war sucks, but like, wouldn't it be great if we could find another way? I don't know. I really hope I don't want this to end like all hippie rah-rah pacifism, but I don't know. I don't want them to like just kill the Yeerks. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so conflicted right now.
Yeah, I think it all is going to boil down to what the motivation behind Visser 1 is, and
yeah. And also what that thing
really
is.
Like this secret, yeah. And if there is like this secret group of Yeerks who do just want peace with the Andalites.
I would love that so much. I really hope that there's I know that super didn't come up at all in this book, but I really hope that there is a Yeerk counter what word am I looking for? Counter group. A Yeerk counter Yeerk.
Counter Yeerks.
Yeah.
All right. And then most valuable morph. I'm just going to go ahead and say everyone but Jake.
Yeah. I think probably I'll give it to Axe for this one, just because I think he did a lot of the heavy lifting having to go and pretend to be Jake, because that must have been miserable.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
No, he did get to eat a lot.
To Axe. Yeah, he did. He enjoyed that. But I think he did a good job this week.
He was a very good morph.
He's a good
good Andalite boy.
Yeah. Good, sweet Andalite boy.
But yeah, I do think you're right in that Jake is kind of holding the team back, and he's got to go to like leader camp or something to figure out what he needs to do better.
Stop.
This ain't it.
Just stop. Like,
just stop.
We don't
make it more democratic.
Yeah.
Why y'all need a leader? You're 13.
It almost seems like they are doing things mainly democratically anyway, except for the occasional like times when we need to remind everyone that Jake is the leader. And then suddenly it's like, Jake has a plan.
It's the long con because they need a scapegoat for when things go wrong, and they need to offer up their leader as a sacrifice. So like, oh, Jake, Prince Jake, he's our leader. And then it turns out it was everyone else, but Jake's dead now. So.
Yeah, I could see that. God, Jake sucks. Jake's not
great.
Jake's so bad that in this book we find out that he, last year when he was 12, bought his mother a Spider-Man comic book for her birthday.
Oh my god. For a 12-year-old. You know your mother doesn't like that.
You know your mom doesn't like that, Jake. Jacob, listen.
Jacob, you are a bad son and a bad leader.
What the fuck
I don't know what else
doing?
to say to you.
Just stop, Jake. Just stop.
I can't fix you, Jake. You have to fix yourself.
You have to be better than this, Jake.
You know what? I do want a Yeerk to control him because they would be better at being a leader of the Animorphs. Than Jake would.
What if it's okay, long game, and this I guess kind of gets back to serious theories, because this serious theories this week was just me going, man, I hope they don't kill the Yeerks. What if there is a rebellion amongst the Yeerks, and they find out about the Animorphs and are like, oh, these kids would be so effective if not for this fucking idiot. Okay, I know we said we're not going to do this without consent anymore, guys, but
it's for the greater
what
good.
If one of us just dipped down there and took over that kid's whole steez and was in charge of this, like, super great group? Like, do you think... We shouldn't, right? We shouldn't. But I mean...
But maybe we should. Look at him. He's making them turn into bugs again. Now they're grasshoppers.
Jesus Christ, they're grasshoppers again. That kid almost got stepped on. Jesus, they're so bad at this when he's in charge. They don't even have, like, they're next to a zoo, and they're not at the zoo ever. Why are they not going to the zoo more?
Why doesn't he use his lizard morph if he wants to spy on people? He already became a lizard. He has no need to become bugs.
Why does it keep picking up different bugs? You just need the one. Just the one, I think.
What about spiders? Because spiders are super good.
I'm sure they'll get to spiders eventually.
Over a cockroach?
I really think they're going to get to spiders. Because this is the thing that I did
want to cheat and look at the book covers.
I did kind of think this during this book. I was like, you know, I want them to turn into all sorts of crazy-ass animals. Like, I want them to be a fucking octopus at some point. That'd be rad. But...
That'd be cool.
I also feel like there is going to be a point where I'm going to be like, kind of like, okay, but you have the thing that would accomplish this already. And I felt like that a little bit in this book where I was like, why do you need a new bug? You already have a bug. Stop. And what I think would have fixed this, and I know it's too late for Applegate to take notes on this series, but I think what would have fixed this is if they did this more Pokemon style, right? Where you're only allowed 6 members on your team. And, like, so you can't
That
have
would've been-
infinite
yes.
morphs. So they have to keep, like, they're like, okay, but I
Yes.
dropped the bug morph, so now I need to pick up a new bug. Like, that would be, they're like, oh, my Caterpie died before I could get it to turn into anything useful. So Pokemon don't die. Never mind. I released my Caterpie. My Caterpie's in my...
Nuzlocke, the Caterpie died.
Yeah, I'm doing my Nuzlocke run. The Caterpie's dead. So now I gotta go try to find a new bug, I guess, because I'm fighting
or like
a gym
their
that needs a bug.
movesets.
Yeah.
And then that would give them like kind of more distinct uses for the team. So they'd be like, okay, so we have our scout who is Tobias and he's the hawk. And then we'll have like our muscle man, that'll be Marco. He's got the gorilla and several other strong animals.
Yeah.
And we have our
spy, Jake, who has 6 bug morphs. He's just 6 different bugs. It's all
Prince
he wants.
Jake, are you sure you just want to do 6 different insects? You don't want maybe some more diversity in your team? He's
picked up all 6 of his morphs, because the way I'm picturing this is you can drop one of the morphs to pick up a new one, right? So he's picked up all 6 morphs.
Yes, but yeah, if you every time you learn a new morph, you forget the oldest one.
Or just you get to choose which morph you drop, right? So he's up there, he's like, guys, look, none of my bugs will work for this mission. I need to be a grasshopper. It's the only thing. It's the only type of bug
I need to be able to jump.
So look, here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and drop that tiger morph. And Rachel's like, okay,
the tiger.
Jake, you've got ant, flea, fly, cockroach, spider, and tiger. Do you think maybe you should drop the flea, maybe? And he's like, no, it's definitely tiger. I definitely need to drop tiger.
For you?
Do you think?
Okay.
Guys, I need this.
Oh, Jake, I'm so sorry. My elephant morph stomped on you again. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just didn't see you there, you idiot flea.
Rachel's just the one who just goes and picks up Mewtwo as quickly and like takes that and then like just drops all their drops every other
like,
Pokemon.
I got my perfect morph first try. I don't need any more.
She's
morphs.
like, I got elephant. I'm
she's
good.
level
but
100 elephant. Everyone else is like more evenly
Right.
leveled, but she's like, no, I'm level 100 elephant. I've evolved actually into Mastodon, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop me. Mastodons look like elephants, right?
Yes. Yes. Mastodons do look like elephants.
I just want to make sure I use the right word. Also, I just want to let you know, book 10 has got a spider on the cover.
See, I knew it. They'd get to spiders eventually. They're smart kids.
I'm just gonna go through. We've got a butterfly. We've got oh, I don't want to spoil that for you. What the heck is that animal? I think that's another bug. I'm gonna count that as a bug. There's another bug. They turn into cockroaches again, apparently. Like, come on. Jake is getting his way too often.
Oh, well, yeah, because the cover of this one was the fly, not the cockroach. So they can probably do cockroach as a cover at some point.
Ah, that is fair.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling way too far down now, and I don't want to be spoiled by who is on the cover of the books, but stupid morphs coming. There's stupid morphs coming.
Good. Looking forward to it. Speaking of stupid morphs coming, that's about it, I think, for this episode. Next fortnight, we will be covering
Wait, what kind of segue was that?
Because we're going to be covering another stupid morph. Book 7.
Okay.
Duh. How did you not pick up on that?
Well, I was thinking, like, going because we're leaving for this episode.
No, because I'm saying we're going to be doing another Animorphs book. So there's more stupid morphs coming. The stupid in this case,
I don't know, though.
Us.
This one's a Rachel POV, and I am down for some violence.
Yeah, that's true. Rachel always brings the pain.
Rachel
Rachel
the Enforcer.
So it's going to be Animorphs number 7, The Stranger, 2 weeks from now. We are continuing this Slummer Reading special.
In the meantime, if you have a favorite bug, you should let us know, and we'll pass that on to Jake.
Which bug would you most want to fuck?
Yes, which bug do you think is the sexiest to morph into?
Yeah.
You can email us at hatereadcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us on the Twitters at hatereadcast.
Thank you, as always, to Ben Cope for the use of our theme song. You can find his YouTube in the show notes below.
We are also on all of the podcast aggregating platforms. So if you haven't followed or subscribed to us on one of those, why not? Why not just do it? Just click that little follow button so that we are in your inbox every other Monday, right on schedule. You don't have to seek us out. We'll find you.
That's a little threatening.
If you use... We will find you.
We will find you.
We will be listened to.
We will implant a yerk in your head.
And you will love it. If you use Apple Podcasts, feel free to leave us a 5-star review. We would very much appreciate it. And if you don't use Apple Podcasts, feel free to review us in any way, shape, or form you are capable of doing. Just tell people about us. We would love to have new listeners. We would love to have you starting conversations about us and asking people about their sexy bug morphs.
Yeah.
We're a family-friendly show.
It's important to us.
It is very important to us.
We all talk about sexy bug morphs. In
the words of K.A. Applegate, I smell poop. I smell a banana, at least I think it's a banana, and I smell more poop.
Oh, speaking of animal goofs, because I didn't discuss this earlier and I really wanted to bring it up, there's a line that really confused me in this book, and I think I know what Applegate meant by it, but I felt like it was very poorly worded, where Cockroach Jake is running around and trying not to get stepped on, and he's like, and I felt something, like, right by my tail. I'm like, guys, cockroaches don't have tails, though. Like, they definitely don't.
Oh.
Like, they...
Did he mean, like, bogeys on my tail?
Yeah, I think he meant it, like, he like, by his butt, but he couldn't say butt because it's a book for children.
Because it's a children's book.
But as a result of this, I did go and research cockroaches to make sure that they did not, in fact, have tails, and now I know way too much about cockroaches, like, to the point where I could tell you if it was a male or female cockroach by looking at the cockroach.
I'm so glad you have this knowledge.
So if you ever need to sex a cockroach, by which I mean tell what sex the cockroach is, not fuck a cockroach, let me know. Because I'm
Jake.
Definitely, yeah, Jake wants to fuck the cockroach. I can't help him with that.